Tracking a major coastal storm riding up the East Coast, bringing impacts from power outages to flooding and heavy rainfall throughout the weekend. All the details in today's video. Welcome in, folks. Happy Saturday, October 11th, and hopefully we're having an all right start to the weekend. And sure enough, we're tracking this big coastal system, almost two coastal systems in a way. I'll show you what I mean by that here coming up in a minute, but that's the big storyline. Also taking a look at the tropics and what else is to come over the lower 48 here over the next 7 to 10 days. And I think a pretty active stretch here of things to track. And because of that, it's very important, if you haven't already, go ahead, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Hitting that bell is the really important part, helps you stay up to date. You'll always be notified when I have the latest data here and my analysis of that data on the channel. Also, we're getting very close to 50,000 subscribers, only about, I guess, less than 1,500 away now. So if you normally watch these videos and you're not subscribed or you're new and you like the video, go ahead and hit the button. It's free. It does not cost you anything, helps you out and helps me out, and always great when two people can beneficially or mutually benefit from something. So definitely consider doing that. All right, let's dive right on into things. Try to keep this as short and effective time-wise as possible. So let's go ahead and start analyzing the latest model data very quickly here with the latest run of our GFS. And you can see here's that coastal storm developing, pulling up the East Coast. And you'll see it with later models here soon that it's really arguably going to kind of be two storms, but we've got that to track. We've got another system developing way up into Canada, bringing blizzard-like conditions to the prairies of Canada, and then potentially another coastal system working in out west. That could become a big mid-latitude cyclone by next week to track. So you got all that. Plus, I'm looking at the tropics in today's video. So again, a jam-packed video full of information for you. Now, if we start by just taking a look at satellite imagery, what's going on out there? Well, you can see that coastal storm starting to crank up, lower pressure developing right along the Gulf Stream. All of that heating there of the warm waters with the cooler air funneling over it is a recipe for coastal low development. Also, some upper level ingredients ongoing, which you'll see in a moment. But either way, the important thing is, yeah, coastal storm definitely beginning to develop. You can see kind of that warm and moist atmospheric river-like conveyor into the storm, and then feeding these upper level clouds that are developing and spreading out into the southeast and mid-Atlantic. In fact, this is the infrared loop. If I show you the visible loop, you can see that those clouds covering the Carolinas, much as southeastern Virginia, down into Florida, and eventually those upper level cirrus clouds even working up into the I-95 of the Northeast and mid-Atlantic. So the storm getting going for sure, and also down at the surface, you can see it on radar. We've got some rain falling down into the Carolinas especially. We'll zoom into that part of the map here. Charleston, Wilmington, Jacksonville, North Carolina, all the way out towards Florence and Columbia. Going to get some pretty good rain out of this one, and then especially up into the Outer Banks by later tonight into tomorrow. And soon enough, we'll even see some rain, which we're already seeing a little bit, but I think more widespread rainfall up here into the I-95 later on, and you'll see that coming up in the model data. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and take a look at the upper level map here. I'll show you why this is such a complicated setup, then start to dive into those impacts after that. All right, let's break down why this is such a difficult forecast, and I'll put the map right here. This is where we're at right now, basically, with the upper level vorticity map. And if you don't know how this map works, the areas that are shaded brighter on that key at the bottom is where we have more spin in the atmosphere in a positive manner, which you generally have anyway, because the Earth spins in a positive way. So most vorticity is positive, but it's even more so positive the brighter the colors are. And you can see we've got a couple areas of interest here on the East Coast. We've got one very strong vortmax right over the Great Lakes right now, and then we've got this big trough with a lot of vorticity down over the southeast. Now, on the right-hand side of both of these, I'll kind of circle it in black. You've got upper level CVA or cyclonic vorticity advection. Basically, that's where the spin is moving to, and that helps often to create low pressure and create storms. And notice that's happening in two separate places. One, right where we're getting our storm system right now, and that's also being fueled by the Gulf Stream and plenty of other atmospheric ingredients helping that storm develop. However, you've got this other area up north that kind of wants to develop its own low pressure, and these two areas of vorticity and spin never fully connect. They get close, but they struggle to become one, so they're kind of competing to form their own surface low pressure. And that's what makes it a difficult forecast, is there's a lot of dynamical pieces going on in the atmosphere, which the models can oftentimes struggle with. And you can see that here on the European model. You can see it starts to develop that coastal low near the Carolinas as expected, but instead of moving it up the coast, coast, it kind of phases and becomes two separate low pressures. You've got one all the way up here now by the time that we get to Monday morning, impacting the northeast and getting some heavy rain up that way through the I-95, even further inland than that, as well as those gusty winds, coastal flooding, and maybe some power outages would not shock me by any means. And then you've got the leftovers of the low pressure right now trying to develop. So that's what the European shows, and then they kind of, again, swirl around each other, almost Fujiwara a little bit, and then get kicked on out of here. If you look at the GFS, though, and I didn't pull it up, so I'll pull it up here on the spot. This is one we saw earlier. The GFS says, nah, it's really just going to stay one low pressure. You can see it starts as that southern low, does actually ride up the coast, and then gets to the northeast as a much weaker, less exciting system. And either way, you've got some pretty big model disagreement there. Now, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to go with the European, and I think the European may be onto something. A lot of our other models, including our high-resolution models in the short range, trying to get something closer to the idea of the European. So, with that said, let's go ahead and dive into some more model data and kind of show you how this could look on the ground. Let's kind of dive into, again, the uncertainty of this forecast, and I'll show you the European ensembles. Remember, every little dot you see here with the numbers is where one ensemble member thinks the center of this low pressure could be. This is by basically midnight tonight. You can see a lot of the models here have it right off the South Carolina, North Carolina coastline, kind of offshore of Wilmington here. But one big thing in terms of how high the impacts will be is where exactly is it? Is it a little bit further offshore with this cluster? Is it actually a little bit further inland with some of these clusters? That's going to have a very big difference on what the impacts you see are. Either way, by Sunday morning, you can see the model gets it awfully close to the Carolinas, and the spread gets pretty wide at this point. This is what I mean with the uncertainty. You've got some members that still hang around down here, even working inland to South Carolina, and some of them that would bring heavy rain and even some gusty winds all the way inland, even to places like Columbia and Charlotte. Other members keep it near the Outer Banks, and then you've got that new low pressure to the north starting to form on the ensembles here, and that becomes the main player here on the map by the time we get on into Monday and Tuesday. You can see that there showing up pretty well, and then on out to sea. So the uncertainty still, like I said, elevated here. I'll even show you the GFS ensembles, and you can kind of see the difference here. And these are brand new, just ran. So we'll be looking at these together for the first time. See what it shows. Again, it's got that idea, and again, on the GFS, you can even see how it has really two separate storms in its ensembles, and that's why I'm leaning more towards the European solution. I'm going to show you in a second. If you remember the GFS model, it was kind of just one storm on the operational run, but the ensemble's indicating, no, actually, it's more like what the European had with two separate areas developing due to that difference in vorticity into the upper levels, creating a different surface map than maybe we had on the models a day or two ago. Again, working all the way up the coastline and then back on out to sea. So uncertainty again on how far inland it is, but growing confidence that it's really going to be two storms compared to one here out of this. So let's go and dive into some short range models, show you where it has the rain, dive into the wind impacts, the rain totals, and then end things out here, giving you a look at the tropics. All right, here we go. This is the latest high-resolution rapid refresh model. Let's take a look at what it shows. And initializing pretty well here with the rain where I showed you at the start of the video. As we go throughout the day, this low pressure continues to strengthen and starts to work further inland. So by the time we get to this evening, about 9 p.m., it's got rain even out towards Columbia, Florence, getting into areas southeast of Charlotte, areas like Anson and Richmond County, even down towards Chesterfield, South Carolina, Cheraw, areas like that. And even keeping some of that rain up the eastern North Carolina coastline. And also at this point, bringing very squally weather into the Outer Banks. See that band there I have circled? Those are gusty winds. Those are, rough coastal flooding, guaranteed beach erosion. Like I said, would not be surprised if we lose a house out near Buxton out of this one. It is one of those setups that, kind of screams that sort of idea. Then you keep on going, and by the time we're waking up Sunday morning, the high-resolution rapid refresh model really starts to kick this thing inland. We've got heavy rain, even some breezy conditions, maybe gusting up to 30 miles an hour in places like Columbia, Sumter, up towards Charlotte, getting some rain and maybe some gustier winds, at least breezy conditions at the very least. Charleston, and still getting this onshore flow into the Outer Banks with, again, a pretty strong low pressure, mid-990s. At this point, by tomorrow, hopefully getting offshore flow in places like Savannah and Charleston, so any coastal flooding we've seen there should begin to ease throughout the day tomorrow, but keeps ongoing showers and, I'll say showers, how about that, tomorrow into really all of the Carolinas, especially I-77 area, and you can even see some of these brighter colors in here from Columbia up to Charlotte. Those would have some embedded gustier winds, like I said, maybe up near 30, 35 miles an hour. Would not surprise me. So I don't think we're going to get a big, tree downage event out of this, but a couple of trees could come down. Again, you get consistent rainfall, and you get these little embedded stronger bands here with some gustier winds. Yeah, maybe a tree or two comes down. Again, would not be a big deal, and most people, not going to deal with that. But I think it's worth mentioning as the storm just kind of parks itself inland, at least on this model tomorrow. Remember, some models keep it further offshore. That would bring less impacts further inland, but something to note here. And then really we start to fizzle out by Monday. Still some leftover showers, but at that point, wind and coastal flooding would be less of a big deal. Yeah, still some elevated onshore flow into the Outer Banks and such, but would be on the up probably by Monday, it looks like there. Let's show you the Northeast now and kind of give you an idea here. The HRRR model keeps us pretty dry today. Again, a couple showers here trying to work on it. You can see nothing too big though. And then the heavier shield of rain starts to work on in by Sunday afternoon. You can see Sunday afternoon and evening. Still not very breezy at this point on the model. Just some good old-fashioned light rain from Philly, Baltimore, D.C., up through Long Island, and even into the Cape Cod area. Then by Monday morning, still kind of the same thing. Just chilly, breeze out of the north, coming in off the ocean, I really should say, more than out of the north. For your Monday morning, for your Sunday evening, and nothing too crazy. Then you go into the European model, though, and notice what starts to happen. We'll pick up where we left off here. This model a little bit different, so let's actually not pick up where we left off. Let's how about this? Let's pause it here and let's kind of break down the European model different than the high resolution rapid refresh. Well, I mentioned model uncertainty. Here's what I'm talking about. The high-resolution model, not showing a whole lot for the Northeast through Monday. The European model gets a bit of a different story. You can see here by Sunday afternoon, gets that secondary coastal low really developing and starting to work inland. And by overnight Sunday into Monday, we've got a feisty coastal storm, about 995 to 1,000 millibars right off the Jersey Shore, bringing a strong onshore flow here. Again, you can see the wind barbs would be something along these lines, and then offshore through here, and then again, reinforcing that onshore on the other side. So this would bring very heavy rain, coastal flooding, some beach erosion, again, some gusty winds into the Northeast, especially the Jersey Shore into Long Island, up through Philly, and even into the Delmarva area. You can see just heavy rain working on it, and even by Monday morning, staying there. Monday afternoon, the storm stays here, continues that onslaught of onshore flow, gets a big band of heavy rain even up towards Boston, and then by Tuesday morning, starts to clear out, and Tuesday afternoon and into Wednesday of this coming week, looking a lot nicer on the European model. So definitely some disagreement here, but I do think we'll get at least some, rougher conditions up that way. Let's talk about wind gusts here. How breezy is it going to be? Well, let's start down south a little bit more. And these are, I should add, max wind gusts from the European model. So this is as bad as it would get. It would not be any worse than this at any moment. This would be the peak wind gusts. And I think doing an all right job. You can see by this evening and into tomorrow morning, we've got some very breezy conditions along the Carolina shoreline, especially the Outer Banks. Myrtle Beach to the Outer Banks being the roughest of it. And I know I've been saying this for a while now, really all week. The Outer Banks still, I think, continues to be the roughest place out of this, between the beach erosion, the overwash, and all the other problems. These gusty winds, again, probably maxing out around 40 to 50 miles an hour for Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, Jacksonville. Could max out near 60, 65 out here towards Kitty Hawk and into the extreme outer bits of the Outer Banks here. So that's more than enough to cause problems. Further inland, Raleigh, maybe gusting up near 30. Charlotte could gust to 30 at times. Would not be a big deal, but, breezier than your average day for sure. And with the rain, makes it feel pretty raw. By Sunday afternoon, notice these breezy conditions working all the way up the eastern seaboard, gusting up near 30 near Charlotte. Same for Raleigh, the Triad, getting up near 40 mile an hour gusts at the peak here into Virginia Beach, Norfolk, the Delmarva gusty conditions. Here's the bigger problem. Near hurricane force wind gust off the northeast coast, if that secondary low develops like the European says, only getting up near 40 to 50 up into the northeast, but that onshore flow out of that would be a concern. With a look like this. You can see into the southeast, though, it clears out here by Monday, and by Monday, we're all good for the Carolinas. Again, I'll move this up to the northeast now. We'll focus on this a bit more. This is what I was talking about, though. Those very strong winds. This would be overnight Sunday into your Monday, especially. We've got, again, very strong onshore flow. We're talking near hurricane force just off shore, getting strong tropical storm force into the Jersey Shore, into Long Island, out towards Montauk, 50 mile an hour gust out into the Cape Cod, Nantucket area. And again, just looks like really breezy conditions, even inland. So like I said, with a map like this, you could see maybe a couple of down trees. Would not surprise me at all. It's no Hurricane Sandy by any means, but for October standards, yeah, pretty good coastal storm. Stays very breezy into your Monday, and then by Tuesday, the wind would start to calm down here more so. All right, let's talk about rainfall totals now. How much rain can we expect with this setup? This is the rainfall forecast straight from the people that actually make it. This is not a model. This is from the Weather Prediction Center, and I think they're doing a pretty good job at what they've got. So you can obviously see, and this is from 8 a.m. this morning. So subtract any rain you've already gotten from these totals, but still upwards, not far from half a foot of rainfall is possible into portions of the Outer Banks. That's why I continue to say they'll continue to see the worst of things. From about I-95, I-20-ish inland, or towards the coast, I should say, probably about 1 to 2 inches of rain. Same thing up towards Virginia Beach, Norfolk, the Delmarva, up into Philly, maybe about an inch or so, and up into New York City, maybe about 2 inches or so. Further inland than that, Charlotte, upwards of an inch probably. It looks likely at this point. Columbia, around an inch or so of rainfall. And then D.C., around an inch, I'd say. So you get the idea here. And obviously, you can find exactly where you live and find the number. But that's from the people that actually make the forecast. Bring it further inland. Boston, maybe 2 to 3 inches of rain. Long Island, probably about 2 to 3 inches. Coastal Jersey, 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. Looking more likely than not out of this system. And further inland, lesser totals. But I'll say we could use the rain. We are in a drought for many folks here on the map. So this is a welcome event. I'll show you the HRRR model, though, because, again, it's a bit of an outlier right now. Shows something a little bit more, widespread or a bigger deal event here into areas at least down south, and then less of an event up north. So what would that mean? I mean, that could mean, still half a foot of rain for portions of South Carolina. It's a possibility. Is it the most likely outcome? No, but I want to show it to you because it is still a distinct possibility. So always, keep an eye to the sky, keep an eye on radar. This would probably bring some flooding down into South Carolina, even though we are in a bit of a drought. You get 5 inches of rain over a day or two. That's enough to cause some problems for some of us. Still even has higher in totals and more rainfall further inland. It gets rain all the way into the Western Carolinas. Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville could see rain still if an event like this were to occur. Lesser totals into the Northeast, less impacts there, less wind, less everything. However, again, I think the other map, a more likely scenario, in that European model I showed you earlier, still running the highest probability of happening. All right, let's talk about the tropics really quickly, because I do have my eyes on something that's shown up recently in the models that is a little interesting, and one of the things I'll give you a quick look ahead of the next week over the lower 48. Taking a look at satellite imagery, a couple areas out there to monitor for sure. This is Jerry, and just struggling to do anything right now. Not a very exciting storm, never made landfall. Good news there. And then here's our coastal storm just off the shore that is, again, developing. You can see it on this satellite. You see this little area up here of spin, and it's kind of off the screen. It's way up here, but it has this kind of trailing a cloud cover behind it. That actually formed into Karen, and it was subtropical storm Karen, so I'm not, overly happy about the NHC designating that one. I've seen much less not get a name compared to that one. They called it tropical enough. Okay, that's fine with me. I think, I'm mostly joking when I say this, I think they did it just so that they could quickly get Karen off the name list so they wouldn't have to deal with the memes and the jokes of a tropical storm or Hurricane Karen. But nonetheless, it formed from when I last recorded a video and died in the same time frame. So maybe a little, there might be some human thoughts there into that decision making. Again, mostly joking, but maybe not. Who knows? And then we've got this big area of thunderstorm activity that we're going to need to keep a close eye on. In fact, the National Hurricane Center is watching it and monitoring it. They've got it at a 40% chance. I'll refresh just to see if that is the latest data we have, because we are right around the next update from them. And see what it shows. And yeah, still 40% chance of developing over the next 7 days, 20% over the next 2 days. Here's Jerry, again, going to die out over the Atlantic soon, so not really a big deal. And that's all they're watching in the Atlantic for now. However, there's something else we'll need to watch that maybe could be a bit of a last hurrah that you'll see here over in the model data. All right, what does a brand new afternoon GFS model run show over the next, 7 to 10 days? Well, shows some interesting things. Here's Jerry, and again, this is by this coming Wednesday, or maybe that's the coastal storm. This is Jerry, though. Again, I'm having to analyze myself. Not a problem. Storm up here, not a problem. This one, not a problem. You can see something trying to develop down there out of that potential, that orange blob I showed you on the map. But more importantly, for some reason, the African wave train is not giving up. Normally, by the middle of October, we're done. I think the MJO, that little positive piece of MJO that's moving over the Atlantic this week and into next, maybe causing some havoc and keeping the wave train going a little bit. But notice we've got one kind of final wave rolling off of Africa. And again, typically we'd be done by now, but the GFS model says not so fast, gets it across the Atlantic, it struggles with dry air, then hits the Caribbean. And I've been telling you for a while now, the Caribbean is an area to watch. Hits just rocket fuel waters and explodes into a major hurricane and then pulls north through the islands well on down the road. Now, again, that's well out there. However, It's not the only model showing this. If you look at the European ensemble members over the next 10 days, yeah, they've got a signal out here that maybe something could work into the islands, and a lot of them getting it relatively strong. Now, here's that one system pulling out. Here's Jerry pulling out. Here's that coastal storm maybe trying to become something. But it's this little area down here that we need to watch, kind of new on the models for about, 7 to 10 days from now. The European ensemble or the GFS ensembles also showing it with a pretty strong signal. It's not just noise. I'd call that a signal. Also, some noise down into the Bay of Campeche area, or not the Bay of Campeche, I should say, rather the Western Caribbean. Here's the Bay of Campeche. So, a couple areas to watch there in the GFS. What about the AI models? Yeah, the AI models even also picking up on something down here, again, in that 7 to 10 day range. So do we have something to track? Potentially is the best way to word it right now. The National Hurricane Center not monitoring it yet, but the models just as of like today and yesterday starting to pick up on maybe some noise out there. So something to keep an eye on. Luckily, we've got time to watch it. We'll get rid of this big coastal storm and then we'll move on to whatever that could potentially be, maybe one final hoorah in the tropics. Before I let you go though, let me give you one quick look at maybe our next mid-latitude cyclone over the lower 48, and then we'll end things out. Well, what's next over the lower 48 after this little nor'easter affair we've got going on? Well, it looks like some troughing out west develops and then a big ridge in the east. So going to start to heat things back up by the middle of this week. This is a big heat dome developing. Again, going to bring some pretty good heat probably for most of us, especially where the colors are the brightest. And then you see that big trough out west. Eventually that gets kicked east from the Rockies in about a week from now, next weekend. This could promote maybe a big Midwestern storm to develop and ride up through that region. That could mean severe weather. That could even maybe mean some snow, especially in the Rockies. Would not shock me. And then it looks like maybe that wave train kind of keeps on going. And again, you could see this heat wave would continue in the red and orange and probably get kicked even into the east. So maybe by 5 days or so from now, the eastern seaboard starts to really heat up, feeling maybe a little bit more like summer than we would like. And then you got whatever big storm may be developing out west. So that's a quick idea of what could be on the way. In the longer range, we'll talk about it more as we get closer. But for now, again, tracking this big East Coast storm, watching the tropics, watching this, plenty to watch out there here on the GM Weather YouTube page, right? All right, folks, that's all I've got for you. I will be on WCCB Charlotte tonight. We should have a 6:30 show. We'll see if football goes over. If not, I'll definitely be on at 10 p.m., so tune in to your local news. If you don't have local news in Charlotte, then you can watch us for free on the WCCB Charlotte app as well. Always appreciate you folks tuning in to watch me there as well as here on YouTube. All right, y'all have a great one. Stay safe, and I'll see you all next time.